For January 20th, we're talking about joy. How often was this the focus of Christianity? You need to have joy. And it became a mask that you wore. You pretended to feel joy, even though you didn't. And where does our joy come from? What does it look like? Let's talk about it. Hi, I'm Candy. I'm a hypnotherapist who's deconstructing from evangelical Christianity, and I know how mindset shapes our behavior. So, in this series, I'm going to share my daily reflections from 3 different devotionals. The Book of Awakening by Mark Nepo, and that one's a little more spiritual, non-religious. Also, Jesus Calling by Sarah Young, which is a very modern Christian approach. And My Utmost for His Highest by Oswald Chambers, which is a very classic Christian angle. My goal is to help you see how each one of these devotionals or these day books might shape your mindset a little differently. And if you're into that kind of reflection, please like and follow for more. Let's get started. For January 20th, the Book of Awakening talks about how it's a profound thing to notice that joy can be found even in less than desirable experiences. Sometimes we think of people like children who find the joy in the littlest of things, or adults that do that. We might consider them like a simpleton, or I think you said a bumpkin or something. It's kind of, we consider sophistication and being demanding of things a sign of sophistication, a sign of, oh, they're, they've got good taste or something. But what it can really do is cut you off from truly connecting what's real right in front of you. You might not be able to really be in the present if you're very exacting and demanding of things. We know people, everybody's known somebody or even been the person who, you're at a restaurant and they have to have things very particular way and send things back, and might even make the waiter or waitress feel kind of small or less than because of their exacting, and they feel very good about that. They feel like that means they have high standards. And I'm not talking about somebody who has like food allergies or any of that. I'm talking about someone who's just being particular for the sake of being particular because they think it says something about them. And if God is everywhere and in everything, if God is the source, so everything is God, all pieces, us, plants, animals, we're all from the same source. You go back far enough, then there is wonder in everything. There is maybe hardship, but joy. And joy can be found even in those harder times. And when you can do that, that's actually a skill to learn. Because when we demand life go our way, we cause ourselves suffering when it doesn't. And to surrender, which we learned in yesterday's reading, that surrender is what, let me see, surrender kind of helps us remember who we are. When you surrender to what is, you find relief. Your nervous system is, okay, this is what is, and that helps it settle down. So anyways, that's the message today. Just being present, not demanding that things go your way. Things that are out of your control, or if it's just overly harsh on you and others, because it takes a lot of energy to be demanding too. And that energy could be better spent connecting with someone. So that's kind of the thought process. Don't waste your energy on being demanding when you don't need to be. But when you do need to speak up, don't be afraid of doing that either, because I think in evangelical Christianity, we're also taught, especially as a woman, we're taught, shut up. You're being demanding if you ask for anything. And that is not that's not the message today. The message is when you're being overbearing, too harsh, demanding too harsh of expectations. One, ask yourself, where are those expectations coming? Are they really mine, or were they my mother's? That she was given by her mother and by her mother and by her mother, and it's just expected. Is it society that expects this and is demanding this of me? Or is it really what I want to do? Do I really want to push my kid this hard? Is this really what I want to do? Is this really what I think is best for my child and for our relationship with him, my relationship with that child? Got to ask ourselves those things. Stay curious instead of thinking that that's a sign of a good parent, is one that just has really strict rules. Sometimes that can end very badly. The relationships can be completely destroyed because of that. And I mean, I've experienced it myself, and I've also seen it happen many, many times. So, just a thought. Find joy. Find joy in whatever you find yourself in. Try to find the joy around you. Is there something that you can laugh at? Is there something that can bring a smile to your face? I found joy in the least likely of places many times. How about you? In Jesus Calling, Sarah Young says, remember who the boss is. It's Jesus. So when things don't go your way, know that Jesus is doing something important. So just accept that his way is better than your way and thank him in advance. She also uses the verse, I know the plans I have for you to give you it's in Jeremiah, which I used to use that verse actually quite a lot. I would lean on it. And then I realized that wasn't even said to me. It was said to a group of people um, in a certain time period, a different culture. And this isn't an overall encompassing thing, but people tend to use this scripture verse, or Christians do, to say it's for you. Now, I'm not saying that there's not good plans for you, but I don't think anything's planned out. You're paving your path. You're creating your path. Um, and God's with you because you're one with God. It's evolving. We are God evolving. Life is evolving. It's just God evolving, learning, doing. And people don't like that. They want God to know everything. Well, all there is to know so far that we've discovered is known. But I think God also is learning and expanding as God evolves, which is what the whole collective is. That's my opinion. That's my thoughts, where I'm at right now. But how I would say joy relates to the Jesus calling in this is just basically like, just accept that you don't know better. Find joy in the fact that Jesus is doing something. You might not know what it is. And this can give relief. I will admit that this can give relief when you just say, you know what? I'm going to stop fighting it. I'm just going to trust. That will give your nervous system a break. So there's some compassion in this. Um, the only thing the problem I have with it is just this idea that Jesus has got it all figured out and it's all going to turn out a certain way. You don't know that. But when you're trusting in your idea of Jesus, then I guess you have kind of an idea of where you think it's going. And a lot of times it just doesn't turn out the way you thought. And sometimes if you can find the joy in it, you can find that it's really actually way more beautiful. And you could credit that to Jesus. But is it? Can you be sure that it's Jesus and not, Buddha or, some other, is it not Allah, or you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't know. And so you're just basically putting trust in the idea of Jesus that someone gave you. So yes, it can bring relief. Yes, that can bring some comfort because you're putting it on somebody else. You're putting the burden or your fears on somebody else. But it also can keep you from actually trying to notice your options right in front of you, and maybe you need to actually take action, you know? instead of just fake joy. And in my utmost for his highest, basically he's saying if you're excited about God and about, like you were maybe at the beginning, or I don't know because I was born into it. So, but I had times where I'd be really excited, really into God, excited to go to church. Maybe, there's a revival. Let's say when Christians have these revivals, everybody's fresh and excited. He uses the word fresh. That's when you're in the spirit. Um, Freshness comes from the spirit. Your obedience keeps you connected so that you can then feel that freshness when it comes, but it doesn't create the freshness. That's how I'm understanding him, anyways. And then staleness is what would be considered boredom, or when you're bored with God, you're bored with reading your Bible, you're bored with going to church. And that would indicate you're out of step with God. So freshness indicates you're in the spirit, you're alive in the spirit, you're connected to God really well. And boredom indicates you're not. Instead of it just being a normal human experience to be bored, you need to feel boredom. Boredom will eventually turn into curiosity to try something, to stimulate the mind. So boredom has a place. And I'm talking as someone who hates boredom because I have ADHD. I do not like the feeling of boredom. I have so many hobbies to keep me from feeling bored. I rarely feel bored. I always have something I can do. But that's how I deal with it, because I don't like that feeling of boredom. But if I'm bored, I also have created quite the imagination. So I'll just entertain myself. But it is a human experience to be bored. It's part of the emotions on the emotional scale. So, but he also says that if you're excited about anything else more than you are excited about God, God's power will leave you and you won't even notice. And that is just, this is the kind of stuff in Christianity that is so toxic. So you just really, I remember this feeling, and I still struggle with feeling excitement, like, and just allowing myself to really feel it, because I have no problem feeling the hard, gut wrenching grief. But when it comes to excitement or joy, it's tampered because of stuff like this kind of teaching. Well, this isn't about God. This is about, you know, some experience you're having or going to have or whatever. And and that threat of his rejection. And I'm not fearing God's rejection anymore, but my nervous system is still programmed like that I will have suffering if I experience too much joy. I remember, my father even saying, like, he would tell us, like, we're too excited. Stuff like that is just, he wasn't meaning to be cruel, but he liked things more serious. He was a more serious guy. And so, and that's was due to his shaping, how he grew up. It kept him safe. And so that he passed that along in his own way, unintentionally, to us children. And then there was just this fear of, like, don't get too excited, but when you apply it to God, then it travels with you everywhere. I didn't need my dad to say it anymore because I felt it all the time. So that is all these 3 books. And I kind of hope that you can see a little bit of how the mindsets can be, developed, and how that might cause you to behave in the world, because your mindset affects your behavior. So can you find joy? Find something that genuinely brings you a smile to your face, brings some sort of relief, some sort of joy, something you can laugh at in the middle of your own hardships. One thing that when you are self-aware, one thing you can notice is that you can laugh at yourself even when you're triggered. Like, you can laugh at, like, it's funny how you react sometimes. And when you get to that place, you're becoming much more spiritually aware, because we have these certain reactions, but we've been programmed that way. And so it's when you detach from it and you're not judging it, you can laugh a little bit. So, or, you can just trust God and pretend to love all the things that are happening to you and thank him in advance, because it's great. It's going to be great. And that's not always true. And that creates, like, this facade that's just so phony. And I hated that in Christianity. And then, in my utmost, you could, you know, just stay excited only about the things of God. And that's still forced. And it's just, I don't think it's. Remember, you get to decide what you devote your thinking to today. You might not be able to control every thought that comes in, but you can definitely decide what you entertain. And whether it comes from something I've said today or something completely different, choose wisely and set an intention that truly benefits you and those around you. And if you found any value here today, don't forget to like and follow. Thank you for joining me on this journey. And let's keep our minds on what helps us love ourselves and each other a little bit better every day.